Hello, dust off the cobwebs. We are back. Well, 2/5 of us are back. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Novel Bunch YouTube channel. I hope that my signal holds for the entirety of this. Let me just. I'm literally going to be checking to see how this goes. Yep. Okay. Yep. It's going fine. Little bit of inception there. Welcome back. We are doing a novel bunch a little bit differently this year in that we are doing only 6 books, and each book is being read over 2 months, just because we just weren't finding the time for it anymore, and we still want to keep the book club going and stuff like that.
We all became busy, important people with lives, except one of
and work.
work, lives and work, and moving away at some
Adulting. It's not fun.
adulting. This background's going to change in one of the discussions. Who knows which one?
So yeah, our January February pick was just like a catch up, so we all caught up with certain books that we'd missed from the end of last year. We might discuss those at some point. We will keep you posted on that. Keep an eye on the social medias on Instagram and things like that. But our March April pick was what we're discussing today, which was Laertes by Carly Stevens, and is Norrie's first pick of the year, Norrie's pick of 2023. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to them, and they're going to kick things off the way we normally do, with like ratings and brief thoughts. Janet will be joining us potentially will be joining us at some point. She's just got some personal stuff that she's doing at the moment, and then hopefully she'll be here. So yes.
So, my rating for this was 2.5, which, as someone who adores a retelling and adores Shakespeare more than is healthy for any human, this book was a bit of a disappointment for me. I still love the premise being the story of Hamlet play, but told from the perspective of Laertes, who is the son of Polonius and brother to Ophelia. And I'm just gonna, if anyone does not know about the ending of Hamlet, I'm just spoiling it now. Laertes is the one who ends up killing Hamlet, and then he also dies.
There we go.
Spoilers for Hamlet, the very successful play by Sir William Shakespeare. He was never knighted. In my heart, he was. His father was made a gentleman, though, so they have a coat of arms.
There we go.
Yeah, so there was just a few choices that were made, which, like, I really wanted more from this book. I think if it was given, like, a second go around and the author allowed themselves to indulge fully in the ideas they had, it would have been really good. But it just felt like a decent skeleton of a story, like a good first pass.
Mm-hmm.
And I still like the premise. I still want something more with the premise.
Yeah.
Because famous story told from this side character's perspective is my absolute crack.
See, with mine, like, I still haven't. I've literally just finished it. I don't really have a rating in mind yet. I think I need to really sit on that and think it through. But I'm definitely going to be either a 2 or a 3. It wasn't for me, and I do love a Shakespearean tragedy. Macbeth is one of my favourite plays, but and Othello is one of my favourites as well. But it just felt like there was so much potential with this one that just it didn't reach its full potential. There was a lot of, I was just saying this to Nora before we went live, there is a lot of writing choices that felt really lackluster. So there's a lot of telling and not showing, and there's a lot of lines that feel very throwaway, that don't feel like it was fully revised. Like you say, it's very much, it feels like a first draft. You could do better than this. It could have been so much better. And like Nori, I also really, really enjoy a retelling, and I enjoy Shakespeare. So to see something essentially as botched as this is really, really sad. And there are some nice lines, there are some really beautiful moments, but there are also some bits that just feel like they were thrown in there for no reason. And Laertes' time in Paris doesn't really feel like it was expanded as much as it could have been. Um, it just all feels like meandering along, and then suddenly Hamlet plot happens, and then meandering along again, and then suddenly Hamlet is kind of how it felt. Like those little really brief stints where they were back in, like, obviously where Hamlet is in the story and it was following the exact plot of the play, it seemed to flow so much better. But everything that was just like from Laertes' point of view when he was away from Denmark just felt very lackluster to me. So yeah, I'm sitting at either a 2.5, or I'm going to be leaning either way to a 2 or a 3. I think more likely the 2.5. So yeah, for both of
I
us
just
to give a rating, it's telling.
um, I just remembered something else. When Laertes is in Paris, I don't think you ever get a scene of Laertes at the university. So it's like Laertes talking with his fencing instructor. Laertes talking with his friends in their flat. You never get him at the university.
Yeah,
And it's like,
actually,
isn't that kind of the point?
I think there's one scene like right near the end, like after the whole Josephine debacle. There is a
Oh,
very
we're going to get into
limited,
that.
yeah, there's a very limited like little throwaway line where he's like, I went to classes, there was one girl at the back, didn't really speak to her, but yeah, like, so there was like one minuscule section where he's in university, but yeah, he's studying classics, and as a classicist I was just like, oh, this is going to be really interesting. No.
So it sort of seems like, for me, this book, there was so many things that, like, I'm going to use this word again, but could have been indulged in. Like the
Mm-hmm.
1920s dark academia vibe that the author was going for. That felt
Mm.
like it's 1920s, so there's a bicycle
Yeah.
and this lady wears trousers, but it's still frowned upon.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically all you got from the 1920s. Then they smoke cigarettes and not pipes.
They drink absinthe, therefore it's bohemian.
Yeah,
Yeah, my brain just
like,
went through that point.
aren't they dark and quirky because they live above a chemist shop and there's a skull?
Yeah, which I was just like, I was like, is that Yorick? Alas, poor Yorick. I knew him, Horatio.
Yeah, but also it's sort of that type of setting for Laertes as a character feels very much not like him.
Yeah,
Laertes, in my opinion, is very much like the upstanding son. He's very sort of action. He's not a deep philosophical thinker. He's very much like, how will this look to other people type person.
mm.
He's sort of like not quite a sort of like golden retriever like boy. He's more of a Springer Spaniel.
Yeah,
That's who Laertes is, in my opinion, from the text of the play.
yeah,
Where in this, he's given like some dark moodiness. He's haunted by the ghost of his mother, which barely amounts to anything.
yeah,
But
yeah.
there's,
That thing I really wish she'd gone into more.
yeah, it's like, allow yourself to indulge. It's like, people are way too precious with Shakespeare sometimes. As someone who has him tattooed on my arm, can't
Yeah,
be too precious with Shakespeare. The whole nature of creativity and writing is like about adaptation, rewriting. Most of what Shakespeare wrote was adapted from someone else, was like
yeah.
taken from true events. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he heard about some sort of story that happened in Denmark with a prince going mad. He took that, ran with it.
Yeah, yeah,
Romeo and Juliet, based on like Pyramus and Thisbe and all that.
yeah. Richard the Third. it's propaganda, but it's still based on true historical events that built upon. There's so much like, and like Shakespeare was the original adapter, I think.
Oh yeah.
But
I will go on a 3-hour rant if you let me do that. But getting back to the,
I don't have 3 hours, but rant away,
back to the book at hand. There's just certain things about this book. Like, I like the premise. I thought the writing was fairly competent. I did like the structure of each chapter being a different month, because for someone who is time spatially challenged when it comes to books, as we all remember from the catapulted mole incident.
What was? How did that happen again? That's a discussion.
Oh, I was talking about when a book just suddenly jumps from one time to another without any real sort of like explanation. I got confused and I said it felt like I was a mole accidentally stepping on a catapult and being flung from one field to another.
Yeah, and now that's your book club group chat nickname.
Yes. But I did enjoy the fact that this was very much like spaced out how it was.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it was.
I really wanted more.
Yeah, I definitely. I think it. I don't want to say it could have done with having like 100 more pages, but I definitely think it could have done with having 100 more pages. In that it needed more fleshing out with, like, say, Laertes and his like experiences in Paris, and not just suddenly like, oh, this happens and then this happens and then this happens.
And then there's a lady.
Yeah, it's more
the one lady
crafting of this story that bugged me. And I saw this on Instagram. One of my friends who's an author shared it, and it was the guys who wrote South Park giving a screenplay lecture. And they said, if you, between 2 points of action, can have and then, you're doing it wrong. Basically, it needs to be this happens and therefore this happens, or this happens but then this happens. You've got to have that causation. And it just felt like with this that it was, and then Laertes goes back to Paris, and then he sees his friends, and then this woman comes in between them, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then suddenly. And it didn't really feel like there was a lot of causation between a lot of the action, especially when it was like her own interpretation of things. When it was Shakespeare's play, like based on that, it really felt like there was a lot of causation and actual impact happening. But when it was her original stuff, it just didn't feel that cohesive, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's where main issues come from.
Which, to be fair, Laertes in the play is there for a brief scene at the start where he gets permission to go back to university from the new king. He tells Ophelia, be careful around Hamlet, he's probably not going to marry you. And he gets some advice from his dad.
Yeah.
That's basically Laertes in the first part of the play. And then he doesn't come back until after his father is killed and the start of Ophelia's madness.
Yeah. Bear with me. Yeah, carry on. I've just had someone try to ring me. Bear with me. You carry on and I'll jump back in. So rant away, my dude.
So having this big gap in between and having the bit at the start, it is clear that the author was trying to fill it with something, but probably didn't quite grasp on what to put in and why Laertes was doing all these things. They also might have bumped it up to a modern setting so then she could modernise the language and things like that and not be too worried about trying to appear period accurate to when the play was written, which I will touch on later about certain things that should be period accurate to when this book was set and when the play was written. But it just seemed like jumping, like a bit of the action before the play, little bit filling in, a bit more of the play. That's what it felt like mainly. But also thinking of like modernising it, some of the modernised language wasn't the best for me. mainly because it cut out some of my favourite lines from Hamlet, particularly in like Polonius's speech, because Polonius, if he's played right, is absolutely hilarious. And the line "neither a borrower nor lender be" is one that I take very close to my heart because it's something my grandfather said to my dad and something my dad says to me. So not being able to find it or its equivalent in the book made me like, oh, that's sad. But let's talk about some of the things that the book does add, which is new characters. So Laertes has two friends, Henry and Julian, who seem all right. They're a little cookie cutter, but they seem like a nice couple of characters I wanted to get to know. And then the author introduces a woman called Josephine who sort of like, she wears trousers and she drinks with them. And she's Henry's new girlfriend that he met, and then suddenly they're dating. And she hangs around them all the time and basically becomes a permanent resident of where they live. And the sticking point comes with this character is when she lies and manipulates Laertes' feelings for her and also Henry, and it ends up breaking up the friendship between the guys, which leads on to probably the worst point in the book for me. But Josephine as a character, I feel, is very much wasted. As she could have been so much more, could have been teaching Laertes about, hey, don't be such a dick about your sister wanting to date this guy. It's like women don't have to be so chaste anymore type thing, because it is a 1920s setting, which there was a bit of that, like the first wave of mild sexual revolution within like fancy classes and like flapper dresses and all that. And could have been something good with that, but again, it was more like, oh, there's this lady. They all think she's hot. What's going to happen?
I love that I come back in at that point.
Did you hear any of what I said? I was just going off on one a bit.
No, don't worry. I work drama, so
I've
got to go back in. So at 8 o'clock.
Not right now.
No, at 8 o'clock.
Oh no, you miss your show.
Yeah. The whole reason we're doing this early is so that I can watch Britain's Got Talent, but no one else is going to go back into work, so
Think of the money.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's keeping me going. So yeah. What have you covered? What have I missed? What did I miss?
I'm currently eating a wine gum.
Fair enough.
I was discussing Josephine.
Yeah. The character that is introduced and then feels like she's kind of there for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's like she could have been a great character and like breaking Laertes out of his like, oh, my sister needs to stay chaste and stay a virgin because otherwise no man will want her. She could have like talked to him about that, because 1920s was the first era where those things were sort of going, oh, maybe not that bad, like the flappers era, jazz and stuff like that. It could have gone with that. There could have been jazz. There was there was three men quoting classical literature to each other in a loft.
Yeah.
While one of them played piano.
Yeah.
But my main problem with Josephine, I think, was she lies and manipulates the feelings of both Henry and Laertes. She lies to Laertes, telling him, oh yeah, me and Henry broke up, we're no longer together, and they immediately have sex in the cloakroom of an opera.
Yeah.
Which is that's in public. That's a public place.
Yeah.
And it was very much immediately. Just there could have been a bit more of that. Like there could have been some time, but then it's like straight after that they both go back to where they were sitting, or he was sitting for the opera and she joins them, and it's made very clear that her and Henry haven't broken up. It's like, so she's the liar, she's the like temptress who just wants to do things because she thinks they're fun with no real reason. It's not like she's going, look, I like you, I like Henry, and I want to sort of like be physically intimate with both of you.
Yeah.
There's no honesty.
Yeah.
It's not even like her going, it's like, oh, I really wanted to be physically intimate with you the whole time, and like, but I'm still with Henry. There's no honesty. She just lies, and then that becomes the catalyst for the group breaking up, and the worst point in the entire book, which is Laertes attempting to take his own life. Which my main sticking point with this is the antithesis, the absolute opposite of who Laertes is as a person. The fact that in the play and in this book, Laertes is just so offended and angered at the mere suggestion that Ophelia might have taken her own life when she drowned, because, like, in the world of the play, that's a cardinal sin, and even back then, it was seen as like a very bad moral failing and sometimes a sin.
It wasn't decriminalized until the mid 20th century.
Yeah, so it was a criminal act. So him doing that, not because his father died, not because his sister went insane, just because his friends weren't speaking to him because he'd had sex with one of their girlfriends, even though she was the one who blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
That is weak sauce. That is just, that's not who Laertes is.
Even someone like me that doesn't know the source of the source material, it did feel very out of character, and I was just like, where?
And it was mainly to show, see, this is how Laertes got the poison that he used in the end of the thing, and the reason why he got the poison. But to be honest, I see Laertes more as a character who, after this happened and his friends stopped talking to him, he wouldn't take it out on himself. He would take it out on Josephine. That's who Laertes is. Whereas, like, he is Hamlet's foil within the play, whereas Hamlet spends the entire play after seeing the ghost of his father go, I was murdered, this guy is my murderer. Hamlet spends the entire play questioning his sanity, whether or not he should do it, whether he should be alive, the whole to be or not to be. Whereas as soon as Laertes in the play finds out that his father, at first it's like his father's gone missing. Turns out his father was killed and buried in like an unmarked grave to keep everything quiet. As soon as he finds that out, he is straight back from Paris to Denmark. He is straight to the king because he at first believes the king has done it, which is true in the play as well as in this book. He is straight there, no hesitation, no nothing, and he's like, I'm going to kill you. And then the king goes, it wasn't me, it was Hamlet. And he's like, great, I'm going to kill Hamlet. It's immediate action. That's why he makes such a good opposite to Hamlet himself, who is very contemplative.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, which is why I still didn't understand why Laertes is like, I study classics and I'm all moody and I contemplate life. He is very much in the play. He does not contemplate anything. He's a little bit of a himbo.
And yeah, even I was able to like cotton on to something like that. So like when, like you say, he does suddenly become very, very revenge driven, like in that latter third of the book. You saying that that's him, like in the actual play, like that is his character. It makes so much more sense. It's such a juxtaposition with how he's presented at the beginning. It makes no sense as a writing progression, as a writing device to have done that. Like, I don't know why. It feels like it was just done, like now you're saying about it, to fit with that dark academia vibe of someone who is dark and moody and broody, and all of the oh woe is me got to me in the end. I was just like, oh, like literally, just for God's sake, just
It's like Laertes is never oh woe is me. He's oh woe my family. Oh woe I've just killed my friend who I'm only sort of friends with. We're not the best of friends, but we sort of grew up together. Which I wish there had been more analysing like the sort of tenuous breakdown between Laertes and Hamlet's sort of friendship. Because in this, it's like they're best friends, and now they're not best friends, but they're sort of best friends.
Yeah, and there was so much like with Laertes' backstory. So like, who is Elsa? Who is this girl? Like that's just dropped.
Yeah, she never comes up again.
Yeah, we're dropped into the middle of the action, and it's just like you're giving us half a story, Give us the whole story.
There is a brief line in the play about how Laertes can't bring another shame onto the family. So that's what the author decided that was, but it's never brought up again. And
It's just
to me,
a waste
Laertes
of
doesn't.
words.
Also, Laertes doesn't seem like a hit it and quit it type of person. Due to the big speech he gives his sister. Like, he's in the play and a little bit in this, he's so like, make sure you stay pure. His intentions might not be good. Like, I know men's intentions, I am a man, but he doesn't seem like the type who would then, like, he seems very much like he is he participates in purity culture, but on both sides of the spectrum. Because he's like, I am aware of my desires and I don't wish to harm any ladies. He's sort of like a good sir.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Bear with me, Nori. Also, Mum.
Yeah.
I need to head back into work at 8.
Why?
Gemma's not turned up.
No.
We're live, so
Sorry.
yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
I'll let you know. Yeah.
Okay.
See you later. Yeah.
Another thing I also sort of that really the thing that got to me about the Laertes trying to life was the reaction of his friends afterwards. The relationship between all three of them is instantly mended. Everything's better. No need for a proper discussion or anything. Just because he attempted to do that, they have instantly forgiven him. And that, for me, as someone who's been in relationships that the other person who was abusive towards me used that as a sort of reason why I wasn't allowed to like leave or stop messaging them.
Yeah.
It was very much triggering to me.
Yeah.
I'm not using that word like, oh no, I'm more like, this is a tactic that abusers use.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Not
it's
people who are truly suffering.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. I'm just thinking, I saw at the back of the ebook that there was there it is. Questions for discussion. There are like book club questions. I didn't know whether you wanted to use a couple
I sort of half glanced at these.
Yeah.
But I didn't really go into them.
Because I think otherwise we're just going to keep rambling in circles. Add elevator music in here. So here's one of my questions. Is Josephine in the original play, or is she completely made up for that?
Completely made up, along with Henry and Julian.
Okay. Because it says here, like, Josephine is an ambiguous character. To what degree is she a positive influence on Laertes, and to what degree is she a negative influence? Is she positive?
No, which is why, like, if they'd had like a proper discussion and we're talking about like women's liberation and her side of things a bit more, she does sort of like sit with him while they both drink, and she's like, I think she said like something about his writing because he was like writing poetry or something. He's like, show people you're writing. He's like, okay. But how weird this book is that I can't remember half of the things that were said.
I can barely remember half of what happened, and I read about a third of it, half of it today. So yeah, it's one of those ones that as you're reading it, it kind of goes in, but then as soon as you turn the page, it's gone. If that makes sense. And it's not
the reason
even.
I remember most of this is because after this we're finished here, I will be uploading a more succinct video with my thoughts, opinions, and a breakdown of what happened.
So check out Nori's channel for that.
It's part of my retelling review series. It's the first one.
Yeah.
Next month, I'm doing a retelling of The Importance of Being Earnest.
Ooh, nice.
Got gay in it. My Pride month. I'll be releasing it in July.
I'm just reading some of these questions, and they're not like related to the book at all. The Battlement Boys all study classics. What is one of your favourite things to study, and why?
Shakespeare.
It's legitimately one of the questions.
Why? Because he's brilliant, and I love him.
Show the tattoo. It's the boy.
That's, there we go.
I'm just trying
The
to.
boy, the crow feather quill, some flowers which are based on the flower that's in Midsummer Stream, and a quote from Midsummer Stream, what fools, what fools. So hopefully we'll be getting more tattoos at some point. Can't afford them right now. And as I always say with tattoos, buy cheap, lose a limb. Which I'm thinking of getting one of my tattoos covered.
I'm reading these questions, and so many of them about like, what did you take away from this, and what would you do in this? And it's not about like actually talking about the book in any more detail.
So much of this novel is about appreciating the beauty of your life, your own life. What are the most beautiful elements of your life right now?
But then there's the actual good questions. Is revenge ever justified, or is it always wrong?
Hella justified.
Expand on that.
Saying, is revenge always wrong? That's like that's sort of like the author has chosen a side there.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? Like in the moment, you're just like, yes, I need to like get my revenge on this person, and vengeance is justified to you in that moment. But afterwards, when you've got the clearer thinking head, is it always? And I think it's one of those things you have to be in the moment to decide. But
I point you towards the subreddit r/pro revenge. Right. Revenge is like taken mainly if the justice system cannot provide it for you. It's taken in ways that are very thought out, very malicious, and oh so satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
For those people who are doing things that are immoral, hateful, annoying, but cannot be touched by the law, but doing it in your own way. Like some of my favourites, like, the people I worked with abused my skills, so this is how I slowly and systematically took down their shady company.
Yeah. I think there are definitely situations that call for it and situations that don't. So like with Laertes, I'm not sure whether it's like you could justify it because the legal system should have sorted that out for him and should have worked with it. Sorry.
Depends on the time period. Because in the 1920s, the I'm going to go and murder them because they killed my family member and drove one of my family members insane to the point where she died. Doing that in like a 1920s setting, that's like you should let like the police and like the people in charge handle this, even if the person you're going after is the Prince of Denmark. King of Denmark doesn't like him.
Yeah, because in the 1920s, you've actually got the establishment of most police forces, so there is some.
Whereas, like, in the time when the play was written, it's very much, oh no, you're frozen.
Is my Wi-Fi playing up?
A little bit.
It's taking its time. I'm going to move. Let's see if this works.
You know.
Try not to fall over as I do.
Sort of, in the time where the Shakespeare play was taking revenge upon the people who killed your family by killing them, that was fairly common.
Yeah, it's a much more, not like agreed upon, but it's a much more common occurrence in history than it is in that more modern setting. So the further you go back in history, the more like justice is taken into your own hands and things like that. I don't know whether it's still justified, but if you look at it, I'm going to go into the historian mode now. But if you use a postmodernist argument, you can't justify something or put your own opinions onto the actions of people in the past, because your opinions of that would shape how you depict that and how you discuss it in like an academic setting. So if you're going to take that postmodern argument, you can't argue that revenge is never justified in a past setting because of our modern understandings of justice. It's one of those things. But that's not me saying that a violent revenge is always justified. It just depends on like the context and the people that are involved, whether they themselves would say it was justified. If that makes
Violent
sense.
revenge is never normally justified, but a systematic destruction of someone else's life, that can be justified and delicious.
But yeah, just trying to think of any other questions that.
One of the things I want to talk about is I want to talk about this because I already know that you love retellings as much as I love retellings. But I want to see everyone else's opinion on retelling.
Yeah.
Because some people go, "Oh, retellings are just like not as much using your own creativity. You're just like it's like plagiarism, but okay."
Yeah. See, the only ones I've really read, I think the only retelling I've read has been ACOTAR / Throne of Glass, even though Throne of Glass is very, very loose. But yeah, I think it's only those two that I've really read. But I like it because they go off in their own directions, and they do.
Yeah.
They are brave enough to do that. So obviously with ACOTAR, she played with the idea of who is the Gaston and who is the Beast character, and it threw us for a loop because we all thought it was one and it was actually the other.
Yeah.
And Throne of Glass it's Cinderella, but what if Cinderella went to the ball to kill the prince, not to dance with him? And then it just became its own thing from there.
So those types of retellings where it's like if it was this classic story but with this major twist that changes the entire game. Those ones are pretty good. I quite like those ones. My favourite are the ones that's like, what if it was this story, but what was this character thinking during that? Like that's why I was so excited about Laertes. That's
Yeah,
sort of like
retelling coming up, not the next pick, but the pick after that. We've got a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, Spinning Silver. Yeah,
which will be one of my retelling reviews.
I'm looking forward to that one because I love a bit of fantasy and
like Rumpelstiltskin is a hard one to do. Rumpelstiltskin would be like very interesting, but like a difficult one to do.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see what she's done with it. So that's one of our next picks. That will be our July, August. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what everybody thinks about retellings as well from that one, and like we can come back to and compare to Laertes and maybe have this is how a retelling should be done, or this one also missed the mark. We'll just have to wait and see. So stay tuned.
I'm going to just quickly run down some of the retellings that I personally loved to pieces. One, In the Lives of Puppets by T.J. Klune. Amazing. 5 stars. Give that a go. If you want a fairy tale one that's more princessy, Cinder. Very good. I haven't read the rest of the series. I just read that one. Trying to see on my shelf what else I have. Lean.
I was going to say I'm reading
All's Well by Mona Award and Bunny by Mona Award. They're not like your traditional retellings, but they do have those elements.
What's Bunny a retelling of?
Sort of a like Alice in Wonderland-esque.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. I tried to read it, couldn't get into it.
I loved it. I got the audiobook.
Yeah, even with the audiobook I couldn't get into it. One that I'm reading at the moment is Lore Olympus. I love Lore Olympus. That's
Also a good one. I'm going to look it up on my phone.
I've got A Curse So Dark and Lonely on my shelf as well, so I need to read that. I'm literally looking
for
at my
me,
shelf.
retellings to avoid These Violent Delights.
Nori hates
And
that one.
the Hercules Twisted Tale, where it's like Meg doing stuff. Avoid that one. But the Aladdin Twisted Tales, really good. I recommend that one.
But back on Laertes, I think we need to stick with that one. Is there anything else you really want to talk about? Like, I know, for instance, I've talked about the fact that it just doesn't go far enough, and there's moments of telling and not showing stuff that Zoe's currently editing my book for me, and it's stuff that she picks me up on, and I'm like, how is this allowed to get to print? Like, this is stuff I'm getting properly pulled up on, and it just bugs me because people, like other authors, can get away with this. Why can't I? But yeah, was there anything like with the writing style that you didn't like, or anything like that?
I didn't really pick much up on the writing style. I know that I liked the structure where sometimes it was well, not the structure, the format, where sometimes it was letters, sometimes there was like a news article. But that's because like my little brain goes, I've been reading too much prose, and it goes, oh, a letter.
Oh, that is something actually I'll touch on, which is the Society magazine. I was just like, but carry on.
How would that so quickly be printed in Paris?
Do you want to know what really got me with it?
What?
The colloquialism, the colloquial writing really knocked me. I need to do a bit more research, but as a historian, I was just like, this doesn't feel right. This does not feel like how this would be written in the 1920s. It feels very much like, oh my God, did you hear?
Like, part of me thinks that like if this was completely modernized and set in like 2020 instead of 1920, like having like a more of a reason, like literally if it was set during the pandemic, having like with what this is, having Laertes trapped in his flat with his friends, having to get permission from his king to be able to go back to university in Paris after the death of the previous king.
I mean, that would have been an even better way to like cover up a mysterious death of a king, wouldn't it? Oops, he got COVID.
In this one, for some reason, he's bitten by a snake. Whereas in the original, in the most hilarious way possible, he has poison poured into his ear.
I remember that. Yeah.
I prefer the first one because it's definitely like, yeah, someone killed him. Whereas this is like, he was bitten by a snake. It's like, where did the snake come from? It could have just been a snake.
I mean, in the UK, you can still die from an adder bite. So, I mean, I don't really. Are there snakes in Denmark? I don't know. But yeah, it just felt really weak, didn't it? There were also several moments throughout it that I was just like, this person's obviously watched The Lion King and is just stealing lines from that, because The Lion King is basically Hamlet. And it's on page 86 in mine. And I think it's where he's talking with, so his father's introduced him to Claudius after Claudius has just become king, and Claudius is saying Hamlet's mother is understandably concerned about him. He's all but inconsolable about his father's death. That's all very proper, but all that lives must die eventually, and one day our own time will come. And my note literally reads, one day, Simba, the sun will set on my time here and will rise with you as the new king. Because that's all I can hear. But
also, like,
carry on.
Claudius saying that doesn't seem right. Also, I wanted more of Claudius. But I want to know more about theirs, because it's very much like, oh, Claudius is definitely the bad guy. It's like, yeah, we know that from Hamlet's perspective. What does Laertes think? Because his father is very much like, Claudius is my king now. Hashtag Team Claudius.
Yeah.
Or is he more of like loyal to the queen? Or does he think that you barely get anything from the queen?
Yeah. Like, is it ever revealed who actually killed Hamlet, older Hamlet?
It's Claudius. In the play, it's Claudius. Claudius kills his brother by pouring poison in his ear.
Yeah, yeah.
In this one, I believe he like arranged for the snake to attack him. But it's Claudius. Claudius, like the play, Claudius kills his brother.
So it's definitely
he then marries his brother's wife. Which I recently saw an excellent production of Hamlet, which sort of skips most of like the political drama, so it was shorter. It like skips a lot of the political drama around it. You don't get the rioting people in Denmark, but it focuses more on the family and the relationship that was shown between Gertrude and Claudius in that. I was like, wow, this is really interesting. And the fact it was played by an actual married couple, the actors were married. It was like, oh, you can feel that there's definitely something here, but you don't know if it was like when was that something started. I wanted like maybe a bit more intrigue into that. It sort of said, oh, the queen has been seeing Claudius every day. It's like, yes, but why? It's like, your sister is apparently very close to the queen. Why would she not confide in you, considering you say how much you love your sister, blah, 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 blah. It's like, very much, this book needed to be more, like, my word for all writers, indulge. Don't hold back. Go whole ham. And then if someone goes, you've gone too ham, you can take some of the ham away. So always, like, as they say in the world of acting, go all out. We will tell you when to pull back.
I think especially with Shakespeare, like Shakespeare retellings, and with the absolute cluster fluff that this could have been, and the utter drama that could have unfolded throughout the whole thing, not just in that last 25%. It could have been so much better. Like, you could have been building up the political intrigue and the political machinations so much earlier on, and those pages wouldn't have felt wasted. Like, that first 75% really felt like wasted time for me, because the characters built up to be something that they weren't, and then they suddenly did a 180 flip and there's something completely different, and it just didn't feel right to me.
Yeah. Or it's like Hamlet in the beginning, like I remember this distinctly right at the start because I was trying to take notes.
Yeah.
It sort of said, it's like, oh, Hamlet's performing for his people. He's pretending to be all happy before his father dies. Like, no, Hamlet generally had a good life and loved his father. He wasn't performing. He was the prince with like a loving father and a loving mother. He was having like, and there was a beautiful girl that he was in love with, because he starts writing her letters long before the start of the play. Because the start of the play is when she's told to back off and tell him no because he's gone depressed. So it's like, have it be like, oh, it was a showman's smile. It's like, that's not Hamlet. It would be a genuine smile, because that brings the grief he feels and the absolute shattering of his world. That's why people are so concerned. If he was normally like smile for the people and then just go to being neutral and a little bit brooding, they wouldn't have been so concerned about his absolute descent into grief.
Yeah. He also seems like, from the beginning, he seems like a bit of a twat, like at the start. Like, he's made to be arrogant and horrible, and I didn't like him at all.
Yeah, Hamlet is one of the characters that people empathise with most. Some people say he's whiny, depending on who's playing him, or if you've been forced to read the play. But Hamlet has like, that play was written after Shakespeare's son died. That's why the language in it around grief and death is so utterly profound, because it was what Shakespeare himself was going through.
Yeah.
the play is called Hamlet because his son's name was Hamnet. Hamlet is the fancy term. That's where his son's name came from.
Yeah.
And to sort of, you miss that. Even if Laertes is very much like a brighter side of life, going forth, seizing the day, him sort of coming into contact with those elements of grief, sort of shaking him off. And Laertes has lost his mother. It might have been that Laertes, in this one, it's Laertes is haunted because his mother was dying, but he didn't fetch someone quick enough, or he didn't fetch someone because he was 8 years old and didn't know what to do. If it had started where it's oh, I don't think of my mother's death at all. My mother died. It was very sad. I don't think about it. It doesn't affect me. But then, as he sees Hamlet's grief, he might then sort of look inwards and go, actually, my need to sort of go and do things is caused by the trauma of losing my mother. Not having that person to go, hey, it's okay to slow down. It's and you don't have to charge in and be savior in every situation. Having something like that would have been brilliant, but that's not what we got.
No, unfortunately. Yeah, so I think the consensus for Laertes is that it was a good idea, just not executed great. I think that's kind of the general consensus from those of us who've finished it. Janet had very, very similar opinions, I think, because we were chatting about it when we met up on Friday, and she's just that it felt like it had so much potential, but it was this happened and then this happened and then this happened, and it was just
It feels like how I used to write when I had an idea and I would just go. But I didn't it feels like they didn't go back and go, okay, this is the skeleton. They sort of went, I finished it, hooray! I've always wanted to tell this story, but didn't go back and go, is this actually the story I want to tell, or is this the stream of consciousness that came from my head onto page?
Yeah, with minimal editing.
Yeah.
No, I totally get that. I don't think I've got anything else to add.
Yeah.
So I think we might wrap this up in record time.
Yeah. It's surprising how much you can get through when it's just two people and one of them goes on and on for ages. Just two of us, and for a while it was just me.
So yeah, Laertes, a fun idea, but a major misstep, and could have been so much better, so much more. Yeah, I think that was a great way to kick off the year, though, because it's nice to have something that we don't all universally love, or that we don't like. It's fun to have those ones where we get to rant a little bit, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah. Thank you for picking it. Thank you for watching, everybody. We will let you know when we know what our May-June pick is. We don't technically have one at the moment. It's Mariette's choice, and she hasn't let us know what it is yet. But as soon as we do, we will let you know. And as soon as we know when that live stream is going to be, we will let you know on all the socials. So Twitter, Instagram, that sort of thing. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please give us a thumbs up, like, subscribe, all that jazz. And we will see you very soon with another meeting.
And be sure to check out my channel, because after this I'm going to be uploading my slightly more succinct review of this book.
Yes.
I go a little more into depth of what it did good, in my opinion. I do talk about what it did bad, but I don't go as in depth because I could have talked about nice. And I also give a good breakdown of the plot and how it compares to the play.
So go check that out on Norris' channel. Plug your channel.
I think it's still Norris Library.
Cool. Check out
It's
Norris
there.
Library. It will be in the description at some point after this stream has happened. So yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, folks. Stay safe. We will see you very soon for another live stream. Bye.